on this. So one is intentionality, that really to make a small group strong, there's a lot of intentionality involved. And I think for me, I remember this really played out when we started AYLF, and we had only one small group that used to meet in box. And there was a lady called Gladys Kangi. And see, my Django is coming in. So there's a lady called Gladys Kangi. Some of you know her. Very key people on the early stages of AYLF. And I remember it was Gladys, and there's another young lady also. I don't know where she went. She used to do also, she was also doing civil engineering from the University of Nairobi. She was called Catherine, and I think she moved on. So both of them would come faithfully, very faithfully coming to the small group in boxing. That is in 2008. And I remember asking, like sometimes I like asking people, why do you keep coming? And one of the things that Gladys said then is, if we're gonna make this work, we have to be vulnerable. We have to be intentional. We have to not always want to put it out there that we are all good, we are all collected and everything else, but we have to be intentional in our working together, in our sharing, in how we run things. So one of the greatest things, and even as we work with small groups, as we encourage our coordinators to make the small group strong, is to really ask them to be a bit more intentional. And it's important to, and one of the most intentional institution, anyway, people can make it intentional or not, is always a commitment of marriage. It's very intentional to make that work. And so it's being called to a level of probably the marriage is so high up there, but really to that level where you're committing with a few and you're intentional, but not accidental. In most cases, we are very accidental in our relationships. And so intentionality then becomes a very key thing. Another element of what makes our small group strong would be forgiveness. If there's forgiveness in the group. And some of the questions that people would battle with when you talk about forgiveness, because anyway, in a group where people come together, people are going to offend each other. Someone will say something that will wrong another person. Someone will assume things and the other person will take it wrongly. So there has to be that spirit of forgiveness in the group. And that is just in any journey of friendship. There has to be that spirit of willingness to forgive. And some of the questions that people ask when you talk about forgiveness is, who should apologize first? And that then becomes a conversation. Who apologizes first? Is it, and because sometimes someone doesn't even know that they wronged anybody. And so who apologizes first? Then first, is it possible to forgive and forget the wrong that someone has done? Someone wronged you, but they're a member of the group, so they still keep coming. Is it possible to forgive this person and forget? And what does it really mean to forget? What does that really mean? To say that you've forgiven someone and you've forgotten. So it's very important to really ask that and bring that conversation, even in our small groups, as we go. The third aspect really that would make a small group strong, and I alluded to this in the first case, is vulnerability, being vulnerable, and really being open and sharing our issues, our struggles, even our mistakes, the mistakes we make in this life. And sometimes when we're all coming collected, nice, good, and it looks like we never make mistakes, and it looks like we are always got our acts figured out together, it doesn't help the group. And when people share from a point of success, there's competition always. There's always competition. Everybody's looking, this, even me, I'll share. And so some people start making up moments of success when probably it's, maybe they've succeeded, maybe they've not. But when you all share from a point of just success, it doesn't mean that we don't need to celebrate success. But when the DNA of a group is built around just talking about the good, the success and everything, but really nobody brings the point of struggle, the point where they are going through an issue or they made a mistake, the group doesn't really gel very well. And so we need them to create a compassion in the group where people care a lot about each other, because people realize that me too. Then you hear, so you also went through that. Even me, I went through the same trouble. And then all of a sudden you're able to connect at that level. Another aspect that really would make our small group strong is really humility. And this is very being able to really listen to each other, really have a teachable spirit, accept to be corrected, sit and listen to others speak, and not always be the one who dominates conversations in a group. And of course, some of the questions: what does it really mean to be humble in the context of friendship, in the context of a small group? What does it really mean to be humble? How do you cultivate this culture in your friendship, in your small group? And how does it collectively help grow and blossom the group? And are you willing to let people speak into your life? Are you willing to let someone say, yeah, you are wrong there, and this is why we think you are wrong? Or are you the one who just becomes too quickly to be defensive and start defending yourself even when really it doesn't hold any water? And again, is it a vertical friendship with a senior person? What does it mean to be humble? When there's a senior person in the group, what does it mean to be humble? When there's someone who probably maybe someone who is much older. I just learned yesterday that in one of our groups, they're even master's students. And so if you are a coordinator, maybe some of our guys are coordinators, you're an undergrad student, but part of your group, they are master's students. So how does humility play in that place? And then how about in horizontal, where your peers, you're the same age, you're going through the same season in life? What does humility mean? Or at that point, everybody can fight as it is because you're all the same. But what does humility really work in that? So that's the fourth thing. The fifth thing that is very key also, and I'm just going through this as a reminder because this is a document that we have, but I felt like it's just good to just revisit some of these conversations. The other thing is submission. And this is big in that it means that we give each other the permission to speak into our lives, to submit to each other, and give each other permission to just speak into our life. And in the context of friendship, what does that look like? In the context of small group, what does it mean to submit? Does submission mean you're weak? How do I know when maybe the group is, or the friendship for that matter, is getting toxic? And does that then, do you submit when it's toxic? Or do you then figure out, I'm submitting to a very toxic group or a toxic relationship or a toxic friendship? What does that then look like? So submission is then key to make a small group really, really work. And the other one is a commitment to be part of that, to commit to build strong relationships, to commit to each other, to commit verbally, commit and say, I will always be there. I will always be there. Count on me. If a meeting is being called, there are people who commit and say, count on me, I will come. Sometimes we don't have that. And then you call a meeting and our small group members call meetings. We're not even sure who will show up and who will not. And you just hope people will show up. But is it possible to then get a point where there's a commitment that someone would say, I will come, count on me, I'll be there? That commitment. And then the other one, and the second last one, is self-sacrifice, as also something that is very key to make a group flourish. Being able to give yourself, being able to give of yourself to the group, sacrifice your time, energy, resources. And we see a lot of our small group members going out there to do good, to give to community, to give to each other, and especially to help even within the group. Charity begins at home. Before we start thinking of giving out there to any other person, could we be having someone in our groups who need us to give to them? And what does that then look like? At times we sacrifice, we do things that makes us think we are sacrificing, but all we are doing, we're just trying to see like, yeah, we are the ones who can sort the issue, but really it's not coming from a point of sacrifice. And so what does that mean? And then the last one is really trust. Really there is trust in the group, and relationships based on trust can only be earned by those who are trustworthy. And sometimes you give trust and trust is abused, it's messed up, it's taken for granted. And so it's important then to ask yourself, can I be a trustworthy person? Am I a trustworthy person? Can I be trusted in this group? And so those are just some things I thought probably as a reminder, because we keep saying that we are big on small group. And so the first one was intentionality. Second one is forgiveness. Third one is being vulnerable. The fourth one is humility. The fifth one is submission. And the sixth one is commitment to the group. And just on commitment, just to add, it just depends on what number you are in the priority list. That is a debatable statement, but to some extent it holds truth. That it just sometimes depends on if your group is not a priority, the small group meeting is not a priority in someone else's life, they'll probably not consider showing up. And so anyway, and then the other one, the seventh one is self-sacrifice, and the last one is trust. And so those are some, you could say, eight components that make a small group stronger, or eight traits of a very strong small group. And even as we keep talking of building small group, working with small group, being identified, and for me, if there's anything that we can really work hard on, is to be known as, I'm trying to look for the right word to use, but to be known for our ability to do small groups well, and use small group to cultivate leadership, small groups to cultivate friendship, and small group to really bring out the values and the teachings of Jesus.